for the ultimate source of inspiration, knowledge, and entertainment, look no further. Network Kingdom is a unique platform that brings together experts from various industries. Through networking and collaboration, we create inspiring conversations that educate, entertain, and motivate our listeners. Whether you're a business professional, an entrepreneur, or simply someone looking to grow their knowledge base.
Hello. Today I have an exciting lady here. Her name is Nina. Nina, it's so nice to have you here with us.
Thank you so much for having me. It's my pleasure.
Awesome. So let's dive into it because Nina's edition is going to be interesting. Let's know who Nina is first.
What would you like to know? Do you want me to share a little bit about myself?
Who is Nina?
Who is Nina?
If I was going to gossip and I was going to tell them about this lady I met this morning, who would I say Nina is?
Yes. So I am I 32 or 33? I keep losing track of how old I am at the moment. I think I'm 32, but I'm probably 33. My partner's always correcting me. I live in Queensland, Australia with my young family. So I have my partner and we have our 5-year-old. I'm a sales coach, mentor, speaker, author, and I have a very, very loud laugh. So a lot of people like to describe it as a witch cackle. So I get very mixed responses with people when it comes to my laugh.
Okay, I'm sure we're going to laugh at some point because we're constantly laughing here. So Nina, I know yours is an interesting story, and as usual, I really don't know the story, but I just want you to take us on a journey to where you are today. Because we always talk about challenges people have been through. And, we always say that we never look like what we've been through. Mm-hmm. And anyone looking at you just sees a beautiful Nina who is killing it, who is writing books, speaking, and just, flourishing. So take us on that journey. Has it always been like that?
Well, I don't ever think anything is ever a straight line. It's never as easy as it looks. And that's anything that's worth fighting for, really. So if you take an example, just with my business, right? So I'm a multi-6-figure coach for coaches. I'm an entrepreneur. I work from home. I am now in my 11th year into being a coach, and it took me 7 years for me to make a full-time income doing what I do now. And I see a lot of people, especially because I work with coaches. So I niche in helping coaches actually grow their business through making heart-centered, conscious sales. And so I really see it pretty much daily. I see a lot of coaches, especially those who are starting out, get disheartened because they get a setback, because they're not where they want to be after a week of deciding that they want to be an entrepreneur or want to be a coach. Even my clients, like I take clients that go from absolutely not making any money in their coaching business to hitting 10K months, and clients who are already at 3 to 6K month to 20K, 30K, 40K, 50K months. But before they're able to reach that milestone, once they, because we go through phases, right? It's not just constant growth. We're not robots. Like we'll grow and then we'll stagnate, and then we'll grow and then we'll stagnate. Sometimes we feel like we're going backwards and then we grow, and then we feel like we're stagnate and then we grow again. And whenever I see my clients go through a phase of, I guess, plateauing, because that happens every time we hit a ceiling, we'll plateau, and then it takes us digging deeper for us to get to another level of ourself, of our service, of what we're here to create, of clarity, of do you really care about the impact that you want to make, right? We're really tested And when I see my clients judge themselves, why haven't I been able to do another 10K month? And I say to them, how long have you been coaching again? And they said, a year and a half. And I said, okay, it took me 7 years. So you are 5.5 years ahead of where I was, where you're at in your journey right now. And I remember I went to an event a few years ago, and I heard the speaker say, don't compare your chapter 1 to someone else's chapter 20.
Yeah, absolutely.
We all go through different phases of life. And I think the astonishing thing, I think it's Dr. John Demartini. I think it was him that says this. But if you look at any area of someone's life, anyone, literally, you can take anyone in the world, but if you just think of one person in particular, right? If you think about the area of their life that they are the most successful in, whether it's their family or it's their job or it's their health, just one or two areas of their life. Is it not the area that they have invested the most amount of time in, the most amount of energy in, the most amount of attention in, the most amount of dedication and commitment and persistence in?
Absolutely.
And so, rather than us feel,
we also say what you focus on grows.
absolutely. And so if we're feeling bad about an area of our life that is not where we want it to be, if we're really honest with ourselves, how much time have you really invested into that? How much energy have you really invested into that? And nothing happens overnight. You need to be doing it for quite some time, just like building a relationship, right? I think it's really easy to look at a couple that's been married for 20 years and think, oh, you have such a great relationship. Why can't I find someone like this? When you haven't gone on a date with someone for more than two dates in a row. And so I think it's really easy to judge people based on where they are when we don't know the whole story, when we don't see the blood, the sweat, the tears that they have had to put in order to be where they are now. And it really has not been a smooth and straight line for me with where I am in my life and in my business at the moment.
Wow. So can you take us through some of the challenges you faced?
Yeah. In business or personal?
Both. I'd like to do the business part, but let's do the personal first.
The personal part. Okay, so for example, in my book, so my book's called The Naked You. I've actually got one here. So that's my book. It's called The Naked You. And it's a guide to embracing your imperfections in life and business. And the reason why I am naked on the front cover is because for me, being naked is a metaphor for vulnerability. It's a metaphor for not putting on masks and trying to pretend to be someone you're not. And that has been something that has been really challenging for me. It's not something that I feel I automatically was always vulnerable. I had memories of sexual abuse come up when I was about 12. And when I realized that it was actually a memory and not just dreams, I started to fall into depression. I started to physically harm myself. And I'm
sorry I had to cut in because I'm trying to understand. You said you had a memory of physical abuse. Does that mean you were not fully aware when it happened?
I was about 4 or 5 when it happened. So I was quite young. Mm-hmm. And so as I became a teenager, I started to have these recurring nightmares, and it started to become more and more and more vivid. And then I started to see my younger cousin in my dreams. And then I thought to myself, this is starting to feel a little bit freaky. Next time I see her, I'm going to ask her if this has happened to her. Because if she affirms to me that she also has this memory, then that means it wasn't a dream. So I was about 12 at the time when I confronted her, and she was about 10. And I remember she just started crying, and we were just in shock of, like, I can't believe this has happened, because I had literally wiped it out of my memory. So
she suffered abuse as well.
Sorry?
So she suffered the abuse as well.
Yeah, she was also sexually abused, which is what as I started to have the memories start to surface. And so when I fell into depression, at first I didn't tell my parents, and I was getting very upset. I fell into depression, and I would always blame them for not understanding. So every time we'd get into an argument, I would say things like, you don't understand, you don't know what it feels like, you don't know what I've been through, you don't even know anything about me. And then I realized that if I continued to feel that way, I was probably going to spiral, and I was probably going to get quite suicidal, because at the point I was physically harming myself, but not to the point that I actually wanted to kill myself. But I was starting to feel really, really, really alone in the world, and I started to feel worse and worse and worse. And I thought to myself, I need to tell them, like, this does not feel good for me. I'm literally depressed. Hurting myself is not normal. It's not normal to cut yourself with scissors, right? It's not, when you have that realization that this isn't normal, and it could get worse. I don't want it to get worse before I build up the courage to share this with my parents. So I finally shared it with my parents. And that was really challenging. I realized how scary it was to be vulnerable. I realized how scary it was to share something with all of this fear around what are people going to say. And it was also a distant family member that did that to us. So what was it going to do with our family? What's going to happen with family gatherings? Like, I'm going to break up the whole family. And I had all of these fears and concerns. And even, moving forward from that situation and forgiving the person, who did sexually abuse me, which I talk about in the book. But as I got older and as I developed relationships and I became a woman, it was so normal for me to push people away. It was so normal for me to not want people to get closer that I wouldn't get hurt. And I remember I'd had one boyfriend that I had lost my virginity to, and we had broken up, and I got into real estate. That's where I get a lot of my sales background from. And I remember my real estate boss, who was pretty much my first mentor, he sat me down because we would have a weekly meeting, just me and him. And at the time I was doing really well. I was a fourth high salesperson in the company. I was the only female salesperson at the time. I was one of the youngest, and I was bringing in commissions and making a lot of money, right? And he said to me, "You're holding yourself back. Like, where are you holding yourself back?" And I remember thinking, "I'm not holding myself back." And he said, "Where are you holding yourself back?" And I thought to myself, he's not going to budge. Like, I'm going to need to say something. Otherwise, he's just going to keep asking me. And I remember I said to him, if there is anywhere I'm holding myself back, even though I don't think I am, but if there is anywhere in my life that I think I might be holding myself back, it might be a relationship, maybe. However, I ended up with my ex. I've forgiven him for everything that's happened. I'm good. I'm fine. And I said, I don't want to be in a relationship right now. Like, I'm fine being single. And then he asked me a question that completely changed my life. And within a second, I went from normal to completely bawling my eyes out and not being able to get a word out. And the question that he asked me was, have you forgiven yourself? And I realized how much I had blamed myself for letting my ex in that situation with where I was in my life at that time. And I ended up calling my ex, and I ended up years later, this was years later, like 4 or 5 years later. So it's not even like it was a month after. And I just pretty much allowed myself to be vulnerable and just shared with him, what happened really upset me. This happened because after we broke up, I was very much like, you're never going to see how hurt I am. I'm a strong woman. I don't need you. I'm good, right? That was very much what he saw of me. And so when I called him and I said, I know this is so random, and I know this is out of the blue, but I'm wondering if you're open to having a chat. And we had a chat, and he ended up giving me closure. He ended up apologizing as well. And it was really really healing. Like I remember getting off that phone call and feeling physically so much lighter. Like I thought, I didn't realize how heavy I was feeling before that phone call. And I realized that vulnerability is really not for the other person, it's for yourself. Because I remember people were saying to me, he doesn't deserve your forgiveness. He doesn't, and this is the same as a person who sexually abused me, like, oh, he doesn't deserve your forgiveness. I said, but it's not for them, it's for me. And yes, I would like to forgive them. However, me holding on to anger only hurts me, not them. And so being vulnerable and being myself, and when I'm hurt, I'm choosing to continue to lean in to that relationship, even if, of course, I'm quite discerning. Like if someone keeps doing the same thing again, I'm not going to necessarily let them into my life. But, you know, relationships aren't perfect. People are going to make mistakes. You're going to get hurt in a relationship no matter what. And so realizing that leaning into vulnerability and sharing when I'm hurt and sharing when I'm upset is the only way to truly feel connected in your relationships. And I haven't ever been suicidal since. Like since I've realized that as long as we have people in our life that we love, that we feel like we can share our life with, that's what matters. Whether we're going through a high or whether we're going through a low, when we have people to share it with, it just feels better.
I think it's the bottling up that increases the tension. And of course, it starts growing in your head and you start having these ideas and all that. Oh, wow, that's such a powerful story. I'm so proud of you. And I'm sure that a lot of listeners would learn a few tips from there. You know, it's strange, but only lately have I realized that a lot of women went through abuse when they were very young.
3 out of 4 women, 75%.
Yeah, a lot. And no wonder we have, we say, women are always, we have all sorts of ways of describing women. They get upset easily. They're too petty. And these are the little things that play out when you've been through those issues and they haven't been solved, And then, of course, people don't know you've been through those issues. So they're less understanding, less forgiving. Wow, it's such a powerful story. And did that at any point affect your business?
So when I was in real estate, when my boss asked me that question, I remember thinking I was very young and very ego-driven back then. So I was very much, I'm going to prove my parents wrong. I'm going to show them that I don't have to listen to them. I'm going to show them that I don't have to do what they say. So I was definitely going through a phase when I was in real estate. And so when my boss said I could be doing better, I remember thinking to myself, I'm doing amazing. What do you mean? I'm doing really well. And my sales just went to a whole nother level after that had happened. So I became second IC. I started training all the new staff coming in. I was in the process of opening up my own office.
Wow.
And so I realized that by me opening my heart and not wanting to keep people at arm's distance actually helped me connect with people at a deeper level. And it wasn't until the year after that I met Brendan Burchard at an event back in 2012. And I sat there and I realized, I just had this realization that I'm here to do more than just sell property. I'm here to help people realize what they're capable of and that they have so much to offer through their story and through their experience, the way that Brendan had helped me see. And so I knew that I wanted to be a coach, a speaker, and an author. And that was back in 2012. So I feel like a lot of the personal development and the healing and the self-love and the self-compassion that I have had towards myself has 100% impacted my business. I remember when I left real estate and I started to step more into my business, I actually moved from, because I was living in Sydney at the time, I moved from Sydney to Bali because I just wanted to live somewhere else in the world. And before I moved, I sold my apartment, I sold everything. And I remember asking myself, I need to tie up some loose ends in Sydney before I leave. And I thought to myself, where is my unfinished business? And I remember the person who sexually abused me. And I remember thinking to myself, I've never actually given him an opportunity to apologize. And I thought to myself, if I want to make the difference that I want to make in the world, which by the way, guys, this is a year into my business. Like, I think I've made $100 at this point in my business, right? Like, this is very, very, very early on in my business. And I remember thinking to myself, if I want to make the impact that I want to make in the world, then what is the biggest demon that I need to tackle? And I thought to myself, if I can give this person who sexually abused me, if I could give that person love just because they are a human being, then there is nothing that I can't do. If I can just have compassion for him, if I can just see him and not want to kill him, then I feel like I have moved through a lot of what I need to move through to feel like I can really move on with my life. And to be honest, like, I wasn't, because we confronted him when I ended up telling my parents, and then we ended up confronting him, and then he denied the whole thing. After that had happened, I wasn't depressed anymore. It was still challenging, but I moved through a lot of that, and I got help from my parents. And I didn't really think about it much, but I just felt like, again, it's that vulnerability piece. I never really expressed to him, like, just what my thoughts were and the fact that it impacted me. Because when I first confronted him, I was like 12. So I was very, very, very young. And so now in this part in the story, I'm like 22, 23, right? And so I decided to meet him again as a young adult in a public place, so it was safe. And it was one of the most healing experiences I've ever had. And I write about it in my book. He ended up sharing with me that he had been sexually abused as well. He ended up sharing with me that he has thought about it every single day, and he's so grateful that I've given him an opportunity to apologize, and he's going to live a better life now, because I confronted him about it the first time. He realized it was wrong. And he has thought about killing himself because of what he has done. And I pretty much have said to him, like, if I can forgive you, then I don't know why you can't forgive you. And yeah, I actually interviewed him in my book as well. So there's a transcribed version of that book, but of that interview, because I met with him and I forgave him. And then when I was writing my book, I decided to interview him about that interaction. But I know that I'm able to show up the way that I show up in my life and in my business, because when I encourage my clients to do something that scares them, and I'm not saying that I don't recommend all my clients do what I've done, right? Like, we are all on our own journey. And I don't think that is the best decision for everybody. But when there is something that you can do to be courageous because it's something that's important to you, when I share with my clients that I understand what it's like to move through that fear, I do. I'm not just saying it. I do walk my talk.
Wow. That's powerful. That is powerful. And I'm sure you're living your absolute best life now.
I'm super grateful.
I can tell from the smile. We still haven't had that laugh.
Yeah. Oh, it's a loud laugh. Like, it's when I'm like absolutely cracking laughing. So I don't even think I've done it on a podcast very often. But it's, when you're hanging out with friends and someone says something funny, and then it's like, oh, like, it's, yeah. Like, I literally have people say to me, Nina, is that you? I'm like, yes. They're like, I knew it was you from your laugh. Like, I get that all the time.
Wow, that's interesting. So now, is your book out? Because I'd really love to read it.
Yes, so you can find it on Amazon, because I know that you're not in Australia. So anyone who is not in Australia, you can purchase the book from Amazon. There's also an ebook version. We are currently editing the audiobook version, which is me. I did read it. And then there are other places if people are in Australia, but one of the fastest and easiest ways is probably Amazon.
Awesome. I'd love to read it. So, I mean, is that why you work with coaches now? I just want to touch a bit about your job.
Yeah, so I remember when I was in real estate and I started posting on social media, just, this is what's happening, this is where I'm going, because I started to travel by myself. And people just started to message me and ask me for advice around life, around career. So I started off as a life coach, and then I was doing life coaching and business coaching. And I remember I was probably making on average a couple $1,000s a month in my business. This is like 7 years into my business. And I remember thinking, like, why have I still not made a full-time income? Like, what is it that I need to do? And I remember really getting obsessed and consuming a lot of business advice, particularly from T. Harv Eker. Like I was reading a lot of his books, and I was getting I was looking for the answer. I was obsessed with looking for the answer. And one of the things that T. Harv Eker talks about is you need to find a level of value that you can provide to the marketplace, that the marketplace values, that you can continue to deliver over and over and over again. And you can deliver it over a long period of time to a lot of people. And it was probably like a year and a half of me really asking myself these questions. And I remember thinking, I remember it just landed one night. I was in bed. I was like, oh my gosh, it's conscious sales. That's what I do. That's what I help my clients with. I help them make conscious sales. And so that's my business name, the Institute of Conscious Sales.
So what would you say conscious sales is?
What is conscious sales? Yeah. I do actually have a TED talk. So if you guys want to know more about imperfections and how that relates to conscious sales, there's a TED talk on YouTube. So I did that actually in the UK last year. But my specific definition of conscious sales is a heart-centered, ethical, and integrity-driven approach to sales that empowers the individual to invest into themselves when it's in alignment with their own values. So it's not about manipulation. It's not about trying to convince anyone. It's not about being pushy. It's very much about I talk about the integration of three things: the energy, the mindset, and the skill set of sales. And so it's being able to communicate with integrity. It's about being able to put yourself out there and reach people who you can build a relationship with, and then offer to guide them through a journey together. But it's not for everybody. It's very integrity driven. So if there's someone who you connect with and you don't feel like you are the best person for them, then you refer them on to someone else. You find someone, or you probably do know someone who's going to be best for them. It's not trying to shove anything down anyone's throat or trying to convince them that they need something that they don't need. It's finding the right people, building a relationship with them, and if it's in alignment for the both of you, offering to help them.
Oh, wow. So it usually, obviously, that means it starts with building a relationship.
Absolutely.
And doesn't that mean that you'll be a little more strategic with people you build your relationship with?
Yes and no. I am incredibly open to meeting all people, like people from all walks of life. And one of the things I explain to my clients is that you never know where you're going to find a client. Because a lot of the time, especially in coaching, people want to work with you because of who you are. It's not about a qualification. It's not about accreditation. It's not about a diploma or a certificate that you have. It's who are you as a person? And I'm inspired by who you are and the way you live. And so when it comes to one of the things I talk about is being really open to where can you just provide value in your life. When you connect with someone, how can you be the best version of yourself, and just see where you can connect with people in general. And I've made sales from the most random places before. just from showing up and doing my best to be the best version of myself. At the same time, if I'm going to go to an event, if I'm going to go into a Facebook group, if I'm going to invest into ads, it's going to be very targeted. I'm not just, unless it's really just for pleasure. Like if it's just for pleasure, then it's absolutely like for me. But when it comes to a business sense, like if I go to a networking event, I'm not going to go to a singles networking event. Like I'm in a long-term relationship with my partner. That's not the type of event that I would go to. I would go to a business event with female entrepreneurs. Like those are the sorts of events that I would go to. So I am, I guess, strategic in the way of where am I going to consciously invest the bulk of my time. However, it doesn't mean that I'm not willing to connect with other people. It doesn't mean that I'm not willing to add value in other places. I think it's just finding and being discerning with your time, because I think it's when we just connect with anyone and everyone all the time, which was me for like 4 years. In the first 4 years of my business, I was like, oh my gosh, entrepreneurs, amazing. And I just got coffee with everybody all the time and I was broke because I wasn't focusing on where could I specifically provide value where somebody may want to work with me. And at the end of the day, we're looking for customers, we're looking for clients. However, I never, ever go into a relationship assuming that someone's going to be a client, ever, which is why I don't connect with someone. And I'm not pushy, I'm not sleazy. It's just, hey, like, nice to meet you. Who are you? And then from there, it's, oh, do we like each other? Oh, we do like each other. Oh, okay. So where are you going in your business at the moment? Oh, cool. That's really fascinating. That's what I do. That's what I help coaches with. Really? I've been looking for a coach. Oh, amazing. What kind of coach are you looking for? Oh, I'm looking for someone that can help me with sales. That's really funny. That's exactly what I do. Would you like to see? I've actually got this training. Would you like me to send it to you? Yes. Oh my gosh, I would love that. Right. So it's not coming into a conversation the very first time. It's kind of like dating, right? You're not going up to a girl and saying, will you marry me? Like it's, hey, hi, nice to meet you. I like your dress. I like your hair, right? It's getting to know someone first and foremost.
Your journey has been amazing, and surely you have used those imperfections and those challenges to be this amazing woman that you are today. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Okay, guys, so you heard it from Nina. I'm going to look out for the book on Amazon. Nina, please let my listeners know the name of the book again.
Yes, The Naked You. So if you guys actually, so you can also find me on social media, and if you're having trouble finding it, just reach out to me and I can send you through the link. But my Instagram and my Facebook handle is Nina the Naked Coach. So it's really easy to remember. And the book is called The Naked You, and it's a guide to embracing your imperfections in life and business. And I'm literally naked on the front cover.
Awesome. I'm sure we won't forget that.
Yes.
Okay, guys, thank you so much for listening. I'm out.
You've been listening to Network Kingdom with Omo Obulor. Remember, if you cannot see where you're going, ask someone who has been there before.